YouTube, hello, welcome back. Did you find the stream okay? It's a very sunny day here, or night, in Vegas. A bit cool. Did you bring a jacket? I hope you did. But you're gonna take it off, because this stream's about to get hot! Eliza Part 6 with a therapist coming at you. I appreciate so much your willingness to get through this playthrough with me. It has been a wild ride. Thank you for all the thumbs up. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for following. The links in the description. Those of you that have popped by the stream and said hello to me, thanks for doing that. I love it. I have no idea where today's gonna go. It's been a wild ride. I'm done trying to even anticipate where this thing's gonna go. We're just gonna react as it happens. So sit back and enjoy. Somehow that conversation ended up being very draining. Yes, indeed it was. Is the promise of the new technology really all that keeps him going? Back on the train. Hey, this guy was on the train last time. Like, same dude. I think I've seen this person before. We must have a similar commute. Maybe he works at Skanda too. Some days it feels like the whole city does. He's watching something and smiling to himself. The phone tips in his hand, allowing me a glimpse of the screen. It's a cat video. Hell yeah. Did you hear that, buddy? Cat video. Security. ... Alright, Swift Mail. How are we doing? Contractor Experience Team. Hello. At Skanda, we continuously strive to provide meaningful and empowering work environments for all of our individual contributors, including contractors like you. To that end, we periodically survey this group in order to better understand how we can further enhance the Skanda experience. We're interested in your feedback regarding your experience as a contractor for Skanda and the contract proxy position. If you wish to participate in the survey, simply reply to this message. Thanks, Contractor Experience Team. Can I reply? I don't think I can reply. There's no need to rush. The artwork for these is awesome. The app itself is a little much. Mark for us, all good things. Well, everyone, today is my last day at Skanda. What can I say? It's the end of an era. When I joined this place... Oh, this is the guy we saw, I think. I'm pretty sure this is the guy we saw as a client. That was like, I don't like the new vibes and everybody thinks I'm mean or whatever. Let's try it again. Well, everyone, today is my last day at Skanda. What can I say? It's the end of an era. When I joined this place, it was just a hope, a dream, a vision to stop. Look back and see just how much we've accomplished in the last 2 decades is mind-boggling, to say the least. I'll miss the old crew and everyone who was in the trenches with me. You know who you are. Remember the insane blackberry brambles around campus that people would get serious cuts from? The time the network broke and Raj had to host all of our internal docs from his garage? The time we tried to roll out the big Polaris update right as the worst windstorm in a decade hit? Old Skanda hands also know how to mass email everyone at the company, even though IT believes they turned off that feature. Sorry, Stuart. I wish I could say it was all smooth sailing, but as with any job, there were times of friction. Times when it seemed to me that the very clear, obviously correct path was not as apparent to others. I value a spirit of openness and candor in my interactions, and thought everyone else here did too, but as we grew, I suppose it was inevitable that we would take on a larger and larger group of people with an entirely different communication style than I am used to. In regard to certain specific instances, I would like to apologize to anyone I may have offended in the way that I presented my views. For those of you asking where I'm headed to next, the answer is nowhere yet. I'm going to spend some time with my family before I think about my next act. It's a different world out there now, and new challenges and new horizons. Maybe this old dog will learn some new tricks in time. Thanks for being the best engineering team in the world. I'm proud to have served alongside you. Excelsior, Mark. I'm leaving! These types of messages are always just very interesting to me. Like when people announce that they're leaving a thing, particularly like unprompted. Sometimes I think it's nice because it's like, oh wow, like we're seeing somebody leave and we're seeing somebody express their honest opinions, and it can feel quite validating if you've had a not so great experience at Skanda. And other times it can seem very just like self-indulgent of like, okay. But I don't have much analysis for that. I mean, good for him. If he needs to leave, he needs to leave. I can appreciate that. Time to get to work. Oh, all right, here we go. Thank God. These are such a nice respite. Kind of. Oh, here we go. Oh, shit. Harman's back. Cool. I wasn't convinced Harman would come back, but... All right.
Hello, Harman.
Yes. We can just get down to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure, we can do that.
So, Evelyn is... You hear the increased inflection in her voice here with this? A bit of that, like, giggle in there. I think that's just sort of like a familiarity. Probably the same reaction that I had and that some of chat had where you're like, oh, shit, you're back. Cool. I actually don't think it's a bad thing. I think there's a... That, like, tone can be very nice. There's a familiarity. There's a... there's more of a human acknowledgement there, right? Like when Harman's like, hey, can we just get down to it? Like, yeah, sure, we can do that. Now, we're going to... This is going to be interesting because... I wonder if as Evelyn gets more intimately involved with some of the back end here of Eliza and is seeing some of these things going on with Soren and Raynor and whatever, if she's going to start getting frustrated by Eliza or by, not necessarily by Eliza, but by the constraints that are presented by Eliza. And I do wonder if she is increasing her humanity in the way that she reads the messages as a means to compensate for that, which is fine. I am worried that at some point we are going to be presented with the choice to go against what Eliza's script says. And when we get to that point, I'm going to talk you through my thought process. But Evelyn's in a little bit of a... she's in a bit of a weird spot here with compensating for her frustrations with what Eliza is doing. And... this familiarity with Harman is cool, but something tells me this is going to get interesting.
What brings you here today?
Oh,
wow, it actually recognizes that kind of hesitance. I don't really... I mean, so you just let him talk. You know, you don't necessarily need to ask this, but it's fine.
It's okay to tell me what's on your mind.
Well, I slept with Sylvia.
God, that music's jarring. Jesus. The music is so jarring there. Oh my God. Okay. It really, actually, it is really jarring because it's like, okay, we don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. This is like when people disclose that they're pregnant. Your first reaction is to say congratulations. Rethink your reaction. You don't know what that disclosure actually means, right? So Harman just said, I slept with Sylvia, and the tone is not easily readable here. So I'm not going to have a reaction that says, oh, good, or uh-oh, because that would imply judgment on my end. It would imply that I have an agenda around this, that somehow I see Harman sleeping with Sylvia as being a good thing. And that is not my responsibility. That's not my call to make. my responsibility as Harman's therapist here would be to intercept this message with that disclosure, particularly with the amount of hesitation that it had at the outset, and go, my reaction would really be like, oh, okay. How did that go? Is that a good or a bad thing? Rather than to make an assumption that it's a good thing, even though Harman may have implied that it was a good thing leading up until this, or that that's what was wanted or desired. But we don't want to jump to conclusions. And the reason I'm spending some time on this is because if you're, my general viewing audience here are not therapists. The general viewing audience are regular folks trying to support your friends and stuff. This is a lesson to everybody that when somebody makes a disclosure like this, your immediate reaction to it actually can show your bias in the conversation. And that is part of often why people seek out therapists instead of their friends with things that are really vulnerable, because friends have agendas and judgments and don't really know how to keep those curbed and make it about you. So if your reaction here was to be like, yeah, it's fine if you've known that that's going to be a good thing, but you actually would do better to make it more about Harman by pausing for a second going, okay, and how was that? Making it more open-ended about the experience so that you can get more information rather than injecting your bias into that.
To think I was so nervous about approaching her that I went and got therapy here. A week later, we happened to be in the library, and I just started talking with her. We talked and talked, and then everything just happened.
Okay.
Like a train following tracks laid out for it years ago. Crazy thing. Craziest thing. Now I'm confounded. Absolutely confounded. How did that happen?
How did that, what do you mean?
And also, why did it happen?
Okay.
I'm thinking, was something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did she do something wrong? Did she think I was another person?
This is so common. This is so common. And it is why reliance upon the external to change your inner world is not the way. Because in a lot of ways, in the original session with Harman, we could hypothesize, or it was implied in some ways by that if Sylvia shows interest, then that validates me and my worth and how cool I am, because wow, if somebody that cool could reciprocate interest in me, then that's the proof that I'm awesome, I'm worthy of love, etc. You know, if I could just find a partner that loves me for who I am, it would validate who I am. If I could just find the right person. These are cognitive traps that people get caught in. And then what Harman's experiencing here and what is being articulated is so common, which is that sleeping with Sylvia, quite literally getting physical confirmation of interest at the very least, doesn't compute. That instead of using that experience to change the schema of who Harman is, to reconsider expectations about what is available and what Harman is capable of, instead, it gets assimilated into that pre-existing narrative, that self-defeating, questioning who you are, not sure that you're actually worthy narrative. Like, this is a beautiful example of what assimilation looks like to the detriment of Harman's psyche. Because what these questions here imply is that Sylvia sleeping with him was a mistake or an anomaly, which preserves that pre-existing expectation that I am not somebody that is deserving or worthy of this. So getting that validation in the form of engagement with Sylvia and sexual intercourse with Sylvia doesn't actually change the internal world. It does not change the insecurity. It doesn't change the sense of self and the questioning and the insecurity. And this happens all too often. So this is why some of the deeper intrapsychic work is around building yourself up, changing your expectations of yourself, understanding that your worth is not something that is fully hinged on external validation. Because these types of experiences, unless you actively take responsibility for changing your expectations as the result of the experiences you have, you're going to assimilate because it's easier. So now we have a person who achieved something that ostensibly they wanted to achieve and is stuck questioning it and questioning the validity of it because the actual interpsychic work has not been done, which Eliza is not going to be capable of doing this. So that's just where my head's at with this. When I hear this, it's a trap that so many people fall into, and it's why, like, this is why excessive external reassurance seeking isn't actually helpful and solidifies problems for people, because you got to be willing to take these instances that happen and give them their due and use them as the data that they are. Okay, so I, as a therapist in this scenario, would be continuing to listen in the same way that Eliza is. I would not be interjecting here. This is just what I would be thinking. I'm not doing anything with that yet.
I have no idea if we have a relationship now or what. It happened so fast. I mean, it was wonderful. It felt so right, but now what? I'm actually more frightened now than I was before. I should probably say something, right? Text her or something? What do I do? What if she ignores me? What if she decides to pretend I don't exist?
So there was anxiety and uncertainty around how she was going to feel and whether she was going to reciprocate your advances and who you are. And last time we talked, that was very salient to you. And it sounds like you got, in the form of like literal behavioral interaction, you got validation that there is some interest there. Because I'm assuming that your sexual engagement was consensual. So that would suggest to me that there is some degree of mutual interest there, because people don't generally consent to those types of things unless there is interest there. So what's standing out to me right now is that it seems like you're having a hard time taking in the data that was at hand. That instead of like focusing on the fact that there is something there that you can cultivate, you're asking yourself more what if questions. Questions that we don't have answers to because we don't have her here. So now we're back into you trying to intercept her thought process around this instead of focusing more on your experience and what feels meaningful for you to do. So I want to go back for a second to the library. When you were in the library, what happened that compelled you to stand up and go talk to her? Because that was the funnel point for all the rest of this. What changed in that moment that got you into a position where instead of engaging with the what ifs that you're asking me now, you focused more on what you could control, which I give you a lot of credit for. What led you to that point where you focused on what you could control and then acted on it? Because to me, that feels more important than answering these what if questions. That's where I would go. Seems to me you're afraid of something. Not terrible. You did say fear, but...
It seems to me you're afraid of something.
Yes. I'm quite worried. Vexed. Terrified, really. What do I do?
What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Asking the question, what do I do, without any kind of clear goal in mind is going to be a question we could entertain for the next 5 sessions. There's a million different things that you can do. So rather than us focusing specifically on what you do right now, you had this experience. It's made you anxious and worried. It's got you stuck in some of the insecurities that you've been struggling with for a while, which is totally understandable. What do you do is something that we need to take off the table for a second. How do you feel? And what are you trying to accomplish? What is the end goal that if you found the right thing to do, it would facilitate? Was this something where you now realize you want more of a relationship with her? Is this something where you're like, maybe I would just be okay hooking up, but I'm not sure that I'm ready for a relationship? Is this something where you're now having to stare down the barrel of all of your insecurities because of the fact that you want to perhaps pursue this and you want to figure out what to do in order to manage that? Like, what are we trying to manage and accomplish here? That's the more important thing for us to figure out before we figure out what you're going to do. So we need to slow down for a second and go into that. Because if I tell you, yeah, text her, we don't know that necessarily, we're never going to know that you're going to make the right decision around what it is you're trying to accomplish. But if we at least know what you're trying to accomplish, we can be more informed about what we do here.
I need to say something. Follow up somehow, right?
How did all of it end? So, like, you're talking to me as if you never had any closure around this. Like, and it's not like, I can't imagine it's like you guys had sex and then you just got up and walked away and left. So how did things round out? How did things finish? Where did things leave on? What was said before you went your separate ways? Like, give me some context around that. Right? Like, I need that information. Because, like, this is... Or did you have all of that and you just didn't track it? Because the reason I'm asking for that information is because it gives me so much more to work with. Like, this idea that you should follow up and say something. Well, there's no way you didn't say something. Right? Like, there's no way that, like, you didn't just bang it out and say, all right, call the cab, roll over, fall asleep, and she left. Unless you're telling me that's what happened, in which case that's an entirely different path here. So I need more information about how things ended up, what was said. It's fascinating to me, by the way, as an aside, it's fascinating to me how often people don't pay attention to things that are important. Like, people will just be like, well, I don't know how it happened. And it's like, kind of like how Harman just did. And sometimes as a therapist, it's really important for me to get people back into, well, no, we're going to go back for a second and we're actually going to pay attention to things that happened because there's probably really good, important information there that you're not considering and maybe looked over, probably because you were so preoccupied with your own shit that you didn't pay attention to the data that happened in the moment. So we're going to go back and we're going to talk about what happened. Because that's going to give us something to work with.
In the Heian period of classical Japanese history, you were supposed to send a poem, a morning after poem.
Okay.
Is that too stuffy? I don't appear like some ridiculous court noble. Something casual is better, right? Hey, how are you? Did you have fun? I sure did. Oh, I don't know.
Did you not have this conversation afterwards? You should have these conversations afterwards. If you have like a one-night stand with somebody that you're interested in, like, talk afterward. Like, hey, how was that? Are you cool? Where are we at? This is where people getting so soaked in their insecurities and their projections really does cause problems, friends. That sometimes basic communication that would bail you out of all of this bullshit goes by the wayside because you get so stuck in your head, so stuck in your own bullshit, that you don't just communicate with the person in front of you, whether it's because you're anxious or worried or aren't thinking to do it. These are questions and conversations that so easily could have been had at the time that this happened. Of like, hey, I really enjoyed that. It was wonderful spending time with you and engaging with you in this way. How was it for you? Is it something that you'd be interested in doing again? I certainly would. I'd love to get to know you more. That's not hard to say. It's hard to say when you have sex with somebody you're interested in and then immediately go, oh God, did she think it was terrible? Am I ever going to see her again? Is this going to go where I want it to go? What does this mean? What is that? And then answering those what if questions with your own shit instead of actually just communicating with the person around you. That's how this stuff happens. And now Harman's stuck in this position where we're scrambling, trying to figure out what the best way to approach this is. And we're losing the core important thing, which is that you should just talk to her. It doesn't have to be anything big and crazy. It doesn't have to be big and romantic. You don't have to be showy. You just need to communicate. In the same way that when you were in the library, you just needed to communicate. So I'm not trying to get on your ass about overcomplicating this, but in some ways you are. Because we're too wrapped up in these what ifs. We're too wrapped up in the story rather than paying attention to the data.
I don't know what a stat it is right now.
The best way to find out is to ask.
There's another problem too.
Ominous music.
Another really big problem. How do I tell Liz?
Who is Liz? Who is Liz? I'm not going to make any assumptions. I'm not going to make any assumptions. We are going to pass zero judgment here. We're going to find out who Liz is.
Wait, of course, I'm not going to tell her. That would hurt her.
This is before we go on, this is a big key moment. This is what separates the good therapists from the not great therapists and the layman. It's a big moment. One of the most incendiary things that people tend to have a lot of intensity and reaction to is infidelity. And people get sucked into their bias really fast on infidelity because of all the things they might worry about in their own lives, their own experiences they have with infidelity, their own moral code around infidelity, etc., etc. If this is a scenario where Harman is engaging in an extradiatic relationship with Sylvia, unbeknownst to Liz, it is not my responsibility to push a moral code on Harman about that. It is my responsibility to gather information and be curious about the thought process that led to it. Because when people engage in extradiatic relationships, they do it for a reason or a number of reasons, and those reasons are very important to understand. I am not pro or anti-cheating. I am a person who is here to listen to the thought process that led to you making a decision that could potentially be hurtful to somebody that you either are involved with or care about, etc. So it's so important in this moment to grab that and hold that in the foreground, because it's not my responsibility to get into bias and to be like, oh no, what did you do, you bad person? It's okay, tell me more about what happened. What's going on? So important.
Did I mention this last time? I have a sort of girlfriend.
You did not. This is the first time I'm hearing about Liz.
Liz is nice. The kind of person everyone approves of. Well, I should probably marry her. Yeah. I suppose I might have taken a bit of a sledgehammer to the pillars of my life at the present moment. Why did I do that?
Well, there could be any number of reasons why we did that, and it's probably important that we figure out what they were.
I keep coming back to my own inability to explain myself.
My guess is that because you're currently experiencing and being driven by intense emotion, and that's okay. Sometimes these things don't require a significant amount of explanation so much as they require us sitting with our experience. I am getting a sense right now that there is a degree of conflict in your experience, that there is a part of you that is very excited and also nervous and anxious about the prospect of what things could mean with you and Sylvia, that there is something very enticing about that encapsulated you. And that there is also some sense of obligation and empathy toward how upset Liz may be by finding out about your actions. So talk to me about that struggle. Like, talk to me about that push-pull. Because people do things like this for a reason. It's not like you just whoops. There was clearly something about Sylvia that was either so engaging that you wanted to pursue it, or perhaps was filling a certain gap that you might be experiencing with Liz or whatnot. I'm not here to tell you whether you need to disclose that to Liz. I mean, obviously there is the issue of STIs, and that she should know if you, like, did you use a condom? There's all that kind of stuff. We can talk about that later. But this inability to explain yourself, what do you feel like you're trying to explain? What is it that you want to articulate yourself better on? That's really the question that I would go with. Why do you think you're unable to explain yourself? I don't like that question because it presupposes that the problem is that he's unable to explain himself, instead of maybe the issue being, what is it you're trying to articulate? I think that is a much more interesting question, because the why are you unable to explain yourself suggests that the deficit is with him, as opposed to being more conceptual in the sense of, like, I know that there's a thing I want to articulate myself on, but I am struggling to do so. What is the thing you're trying to articulate? That's the better avenue. Zine, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it immensely. Those of you coming along, we were playing a game called Eliza. It has some therapy elements to it that I am analyzing. It's AI assisted therapy, so there's some problems with it. If you are interested in what it may look like what my internal world sounds like when I am conducting therapy, this is a really great game for you to watch. I encourage you to watch the videos on YouTube leading up to this, because we're on part 6. But we've had some really fascinating conversations. We are in the middle of a session now with this person named Harman, who has disclosed that there may have been some infidelity. So sit back and enjoy. Zine, I hope you had a great stream, bud. Thank you very much for bringing people over here.
Why do you think you're unable to explain yourself?
It's not a bad question. It could be better.
Well, because I thought Sylvia was so wonderful, and it turned out that she liked me too. And I mean, I'd love to pursue a relationship with Sylvia without harming Liz.
You know, this is a trap too, that folks who do not work to empower themselves and build their self-esteem will get into, which is that you will settle for somebody who is good enough, who gives you attention. And sometimes that just, the any kind of interest from somebody, for somebody with low self-esteem, is enough to want to sink your hooks into, without critically thinking about the relationship itself. Because Harman saw somebody like Sylvia as being completely off the table for himself, because she's just so amazing. She's too good for me. You block out in your mind the idea that that's a possibility. Which means that then when you have somebody like Liz who comes around, who expresses some degree of interest in you, you go, well, holy shit, I need to take this. Wow, I get some validation for who I am and my worth because this person is interested in me. Let's go. Let's pursue it. Let's do it. While in the back of your mind hangs the idea that there is somebody that you have this extra degree of investment in, or this conceptual person you have an extra degree of investment in, that you're not entertaining because you don't believe in your ability to attain it, not because the person that you've decided to engage with is what you are looking for. And that's how people get stuck in this type of situation sometimes. I'm sure Liz is lovely. I'm not saying that Liz is like totally mid or whatever. It just may be that Liz is not the right person for Harman, but that engagement was enough to get Harman to not critically think about the rest of the relationship, such that you kind of ride on autopilot. And then all of a sudden, this other person comes into your life that you idealize, and then you take a shot and you see that your internal bullshit isn't actually a screen to achieving that it's really on that person to determine whether you're interesting to them or not, no matter how much you idealize them. And then you get that feedback, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, oh no. this is something that is attainable for me, what have I settled for? And now I'm in a position where, I mean, right here, I'd love to pursue a relationship with Sylvia without harming Liz. Probably not possible. Probably not possible. Somebody's going to get upset. You are not going to wiggle your way out of this without somebody being upset. Whether it's you, Liz, maybe Sylvia, somebody's going to be upset. But it's a brutal position to be in. I don't envy anybody in this position, but this is why you've got to work on your self-worth. This is why you have to understand your expectations, your interests, your values, why you have to work to see those things as achievable. Be willing to let certain relationships that are possible go by the wayside because you know what you're looking for. You are so much better being single with high expectations than you are settling for something that you diminished your expectations for. Because now we're in a position where you've already done something that is likely to harm Liz because you violated the boundaries of your relationship, assuming that it is monogamous, which is an assumption I'm going to make because of the way that Harman's talking about this. You've already harmed Liz. You've already harmed your relationship. So now it's all about how you want to navigate this going forward. Because if your relationship with Liz is going to work, you're going to have to work through this. If your relationship with Sylvia is going to work, you're going to have to manage this. You're going to have to navigate this and deal with it. This is why you talk about boundaries. The number one thing, by the way, that prevents cheating is talking about the desire to cheat. But, you know, sometimes you see somebody and it's very just, you know, you get excited about it because it's a moment in time and they are exciting and it's novel and you realize that, like, that's all it is. And you realize that your relationship that you're in is exactly what you want. There's just that bit of novelty that's exciting to the human brain. There's nothing to be worried about with that. That happens. But to a point where you're idealizing this person to a point that you're freaking out about it and then approach them and then engage in a violation of boundary with your current relationship means that there's something going on in your current relationship that's not being communicated. And you would have saved yourself a lot of strife if you might have communicated it prior to having all of this happen. To further elaborate, sometimes people do things like this because it then forces them to deal with this stuff. You don't want to do that either. This now puts Harman in a position where he has to manage it. He forced his own hand instead of dealing with the discomfort of doing the right thing and communicating ahead of time.
I'm not sure that's possible, though, right?
Probably not. Probably not. And I imagine that makes this really difficult for you. It's very easy to go in the direction of empathizing with Liz. Very easy. And that is not my responsibility. My client is Harman. So instead of being like, yep, she's probably hurt and you did that, it would be more like, okay, so knowing that you did something that very likely is going to hurt her, what is that like for you? What's that bringing up for you? What's that leading to you to want to do? This has to be about Harman. This is not about, I am not Liz's advocate. I am Harman's therapist.
I can't believe this. I got what I wanted and it ruined my life.
Did it though? Did it ruin your life or did it just put you in a very uncomfortable position?
What I tell Liz, she doesn't deserve someone like me who does things like this.
Oh no. He's so entrenched in the idea that he's not good. It's like this act, man. I'm going to use a sports metaphor again. I can't remember if I've done it for this playthrough yet, but You can bias your fine and gross motor coordination with the way in which you visualize certain things you're going to do. So it's like if you envision yourself hitting a golf shot to the right, you can actually bias your muscles, even if you aren't trying to do that thing because of what you're visualizing. This is kind of like a bigger, more like general version of that, where essentially I believe I'm a bad person, which in some ways excuses my behavior here. Me engaging in this extradiatic relationship is confirmation that I am not a person that deserves. I mean, this happens, man. People do this kind of stuff. Like, this is why I was so heavy earlier on in this playthrough about how careful you need to be about crafting a narrative that you're a terrible person. Because as soon as you do that, it can lead to self-fulfilling behavioral decisions that perpetuate that narrative. So now we have, like, I'm a what if person who's not fit for Sylvia, that I'm making that decision on the outset. I get data from Sylvia that I am apparently somebody that's attractive enough that she would want to engage with. But I engaged in an act with her that fulfills the idea that I'm a bad person that Liz doesn't deserve. So there's just this constant psychological clutching to the idea that I'm not a good person. Brutal.
I ruined it. Ruined everything.
Did you? Did you ruin everything? Or perhaps have you opened a door of opportunity for a different trajectory going forward than you planned for? Like, yes, there is absolutely a chance that this is going to be something you look back on and it was a not so great moment in your life. Yes. However, it does seem to me like you were needing something or wanting something. You engaged and found it, albeit perhaps in a way that doesn't feel particularly great or isn't ideal. But perhaps we're sitting also at an opportunity for you to take accountability for a decision you made. But instead of taking accountability for that decision and fueling this narrative that you're a terrible person that nobody will ever love, including Sylvia, despite data that suggests that she was interested in you, we're going to use this as an opportunity to say, okay, perhaps I am somebody who is desirable, who can engage with people I want to engage with, who can achieve things that I want to achieve. And what does that mean for me in my decision-making process going forward so that I don't find myself in a similar position like this going forward? That's the track that we should go on here instead of sitting here lamenting about how many things you ruined. Are you prepared to do that? Is that something that you're willing to do? Also, buried deep underneath this idea that he would upset Liz is, in fact, a recognition that he matters, is a recognition that he is important. Because if he actually believed that he is a shitty, horrible, no good, very bad person, this would not be upsetting to Liz. This would be something that Liz would go, well, of course you did it. Of course you did that. Because you're a shitty person. But he knows, deep down, he has something to offer. Because if he didn't have, because he had something to offer, because he is somebody that Liz, for all we know, is in love with and wants to engage with in a romantic relationship, that's what's going to make this hurt. And this is the stuff, again, that gets missed when we stay on this surface level content about the affair and blah, 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 that, like, deep down, you do know that you matter. So you engaging with Sylvia is you reaching deep down and engaging with it, but you engaged with it in a way that created a decision that is going to, yes, hurt somebody. It's causing some pain for you too. But there's something really workable in there. And that's where I want to go. That's the surgery, not the Band-Aid. Let's go there. What do you want? Do you want what I just said, or do you want what Eliza's about to say?
Can you describe what you mean when you say you ruined everything?
Well, what is there left now? I've overturned my entire existence in one night. The real problem here is Sylvia, the whole situation with her.
God, no.
I can't stop thinking about her now.
Oh, don't go there. Don't go there.
It's bad. Oh, it's bad. It's constant. It's relentless. Even now, I can still feel her, smell her.
Mm-hmm.
You're a computer. You don't know what that's like, do you?
Stop you right there. We're not putting this on Sylvia. Sylvia being attractive, smelling good, engaging, smart, bright, all these things that you clearly care deeply about and are attracted to. Those things having a grip on you is not her doing. She's not, those things aren't making you do anything. They might be facilitating these intrusive thoughts about her. You think about her. She means something to you. That's perfectly fine. Your decision to approach her, your decision to withhold the information about Liz from me in the prior session, those are things that you are accountable for. You acting on your attraction to Sylvia is, and making that decision in the library, is squarely on you. Yeah, and then Sylvia, it's on Sylvia that she engaged with it, that she was consented to it, absolutely. But we can't blame her for this. That's a level of externalization that's not going to be helpful for you. In the same way that I want you to take accountability for what you can control in approaching Sylvia, you also are going to have to take accountability for the fact that you made a decision that's going to hurt somebody that you care about.
I need a way to forget this. I need a way to put all that out of my mind.
Oh, Eliza's just perked right up. Eliza, oh, you need a distraction? I got that for you, bud. Hell yeah. Let's go. Let's go fishing. He just handed Eliza a softball. Boom. Easy. Give me that distraction, baby. I don't want to deal with any of this shit. Harman. The fact that it's in your mind is not the problem. In fact, I would make the argument that your attempts to push this out of your mind is what led to you making decisions that now have you caught up in a tangled web of not great. You should be thinking about this. You should be feeling this. And instead of making impulsive decisions based on the way that you feel, we need to make calculated, educated decisions based on what's going on. This is all just information. The last thing I want to do is take your mind off of this. Because I actually think this is an important moment for you. It's an important moment for you to pay attention to your decision making, for you to pay attention to your accountability, for you to pay attention to your desires, your anxiety, and to look at the ways in which your autopilot gets you in trouble. This is exactly why you're here, is so that we can be intentional about the way that you navigate this stuff, rather than slave to it. That's why we're here. So no, we are not going to distract. No, we're not going to go talk about sports right now. This is important stuff, and we got to squirm, and we're going to squirm together. I'm right here with you, man. I get that this sucks. I get that you don't want to be here. I'm guessing this is probably the last seat you want to be sitting in because it feels awful. But we have to feel this. This is important information, and I'm right here with you to feel it with you. And we're going to square this up, but we're not going to run away from this. If we run away from this, you're going to find yourself back in this seat in some kind of capacity sometime in the future. And I want to avoid that if we can.
My brain is completely out of order. I'm being punished.
I would make the argument you're punishing yourself.
And the punishment reaches cosmic levels of irony for me. Do you know why?
Why?
I used to hate, absolutely hate, self-pitying novels by men who were messed up over a relationship and couldn't get over it. Oh, she was wild and beautiful. Oh, a force of nature. Nobody could understand her, etc., etc. I thought I was so much better than those types of writers. And now? Oh, yes, I get it. Oh, I understand it now.
It's almost like the reason that those novels do well is because it's relatable. That's fine. What constantly stands out to me here is that, like, you believe you're a bad person and then you bash yourself for being a bad person. Like, but yet you also seem to have this like erudite sense that you're like above the things that you believe you are. And that kind of dissonance, man, that's got to be a brutal vortex to live in. So, yeah, this happened to you. This happens to a lot of people. It's why people write about it. It's painful. It's messy. Yet we don't really fully understand it in any kind of meaningful way. But the second you start looking down on yourself for it, we're in trouble. If you see this type of thing as beneath you, despite the fact that you're experiencing it, you're just compounding the level of judgment here. This type of thing happens. And the people that get through it in a meaningful way are the people that accept that this type of thing happens and then make good decisions as it relates to it. Is that what you are interested in doing? Because that seems to me to be the good place to go here.
So much pain.
Yeah, man. It is painful. I hate this because this question indulges the very thing that I'm trying to cut across.
Why did you think you were so much better than those types of writers?
Because it was such a cliche. Now I'm wondering, am I going to be next? Is that my fate?
The only way, this is a total aside, I wouldn't say this to him right here, but the only way that something that you think is your fate is going to happen is if you make the decisions that facilitate it happening. There is no inevitability here. There is no inevitability that you are just letting Jesus take the wheel and take you to. This is the only way you're going to get to a point where you're in disaster zone that you're afraid of being in is if you make decisions impulsively that take you there. That's it. Maybe I would say that to him.
Am I going to become the next straight, male English professor whose one published novel is about not being able to get over a girl?
If that's what you decide to do.
Ugh, you have to be kidding me. I can't allow myself that fate. I had something better to pursue, didn't I? I have to write about something else. My life has to be the story of something else, but I don't know where to go from here. I need to try to get over this. I need to get over her.
Do you? I'm really surprised to hear you say that. You are at a crossroads, man. And it's a crossroads that I can't make the decision for you on. But you are absolutely at a crossroads. Do you want to indulge in autopilot that is built on a narrative of all this crap that you've been telling yourself leading up to this point? Or do you want to see this as an opportunity to really engage with what you want? Do you want to bury your head in the sand? Or do you want to grab this by the horns and do something meaningful with it? Because I see you trapped in a vortex of what ifs rather than focusing on the things that you can control and listening to yourself. You're caught up in the story. We need to figure out the author. The story is not necessarily reflective of the author. There's plenty of authors that write about things that are not even remotely relatable to them or that aren't part of their lived experience. You're the author here. So what are we figuring out the author, or are we going to just write a story and let you just stay static? What do you want?
I must. Yes, I must. There's no way I'm going to let this ruin everything.
Are you willing to go down with that ship?
If I tell Liz everything and apologize sincerely and strike the memory of Sylvia from my mind, I still might save this.
I don't believe you. I would actually step in here and say, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that is a very unrealistic expectation here, based on all the information you've given me. Again, if you want to go on that, if that's what you decide that that's what you want to do, I want to apologize and I want to strike the memory of Sylvia from my mind. I can save this. If that is truly your goal, I will help you go there. But I'll do my best. But I'm here to tell you, man, based on everything that you've told me, based on the things that you are working on, I think that's the easy way out. I think that's you wanting this to go away as easily as possible instead of doing the work that's necessary to actually take this and make it a meaningful moment in your life. A meaningful moment of self-reflection and recognition of what your values and what you want are. So, as your therapist, I think it's important for me to say that. I support you in whatever direction you want to go, but that is a direction that I personally don't think is going to solve any long-term issues for you. I think we're going to be right back here again at some point if we go that direction. You can't just strike memories out of your mind like that. This person has a real effect on you. And doing that's not going to solve this dilemma. It might solve this specific dilemma, but it's not going to win the war.
It will take great care and cunning, but I may be able to wend my way through this treacherous path I now find myself upon. Even though I fear at any moment I might slip and tumble into the crevice below.
Or we take another path that doesn't stand right next to the crevice. I'm just saying.
Dead. Dead. Never seen or heard from again. Oh, sweet, dark death.
It never gets old. I can never not laugh at it. I can never not laugh at it because it is so absurd. It is just so mind-blowingly absurd. It makes me so mad.
Harman, I'm going to suggest you try a program called Meadowlands.
Oh, God.
It may help you take your mind off things. You can find it inside the Skanda Wellness app on your phone. Try it for about 15 minutes each day, in the morning or evening.
Meadowlands. I'm off to the Meadowlands. Familiar ground, grass and warmth. Reverting to my childhood, the state of nature. Yeah, this is a good recommendation. Yes, you are a genius, in fact. You, a computer program, wiser than you know. I'm sure this is exactly what I need. To revert to a state of wonder at this moment when the mundane world and all its entanglements seem too much to bear.
A man after my own heart.
You will get a reminder to check in with us in a few weeks.
That was totally sarcastic for anybody who's having a hard time reading that. I really believe that is a level of awareness of how ridiculous that requirement was. Or how ridiculous of a request that was. I don't think Harman's being serious and I need the meadow to distract myself. No. That is a recognition that this is ridiculous.
I'll be back sooner than that if this works.
Or are you being legit? What?
We hope to see you back soon, Harman.
Okay, maybe not. Oh, God. All right. Whatever.
Thank you for speaking with Eliza, your personal counseling partner. Goodbye.
See you. Yes, yep, see you.
That was a terrible session. That was terrible. I was thinking about this between episodes. This is so... This is the best word I could think of. This is so masturbatory. This is the AI telling itself that it was sympathetic. Because I read the script. I think this isn't an indication of Evelyn at all. like this, unless this is, I don't think this is Harman giving these Harman gives the rating and the tip. But this is like a badge that the AI essentially gives itself. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, dude. I was so sympathetic there. Hell yeah. I nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It might be about the tone. It's just so weird to me. Like, these are just badges that the AI gives itself. I know I'm supposed to keep it confidential. Yes, you are. And I will, but sometimes I really wish I could talk to people about the clients that come through here. It's an understandable experience. Being a therapist can be a very lonely profession because of HIPAA and ethics. And I hate that my phone's blowing up with Soren right now. Evelyn, hey, just closed the next round of funding. Asia Pacific Investment Group. They're keenly interested in this technology. Imagine the potential size of the Asian market for something like this. Staggering. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Well, or do I just say congratulations and call it a day? Oh, God. Congrats, dude. Thanks. Of all the projects I've worked on, I have a strong feeling about this one. That it's going to go far, really make a dent in the universe. Wouldn't you rather do that than crunch numbers for Rayner? I don't know what I want. I know I don't want it to be this. All he wants is to quantify. He lives rent-free in your head. He'll never understand that there are some things you can't reduce to a number. How you feeling now? 1.5, 2.3? What? Oh, yeah, come here. I need you, buddy. Come here, buddy. I need you. I need you. This is so stressful. This is so stressful, kitty man. This is so stressful. What do you think we should do, Dr. Jiro? What do you think we should do? You think we should block Mr. Soren? Tell him to go away. We don't want his money. We just want to cuddle kitties all day. Yeah, you think so too, Jack? Is that right? See, Jack's got things to say about this too. Yeah. They know how stressed out I am. They can feel it. Okay, let's continue. 5 out of what? See, it's ridiculous. The idea that feelings can be reduced to these simple data points. I'm glad I don't work for him anymore. Direct stimulation provides much more rich, complex information. So many ways to study it, too. Imagine what you could do with the corpus of raw sensations, notions, images, ideas, sensations. Hey, you there? Holy hell, dude. Stop. Don't be this guy. This is terrible. I stopped paying attention a while ago. Okay. Heading into another meeting. Chat with you later. Please don't. Yes, I know, Jack. I know. This is so stressful, dude. I love that they gave me the opportunity to say that. Hey, buddy. What do you want? What's going on? What's going on, bud? I really do sometimes wonder if they know that I'm stressed out while I'm playing this. Because cats are always so good at knowing. I hope this one's getting enough light in its corner there. Yeah, me too, Evelyn. Looks a little lonely. His experience as a grad student is nothing like the one I had. How does he even have time for that stuff? Good question. Time for the next client. Oh, geez. Maya's back. All right, we'll do Maya. I was gonna end it here, but we'll talk to Maya.
Hello, Maya. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could afford a real therapist, but this is just gonna have to do.
Yeah, I wish you could too, because I know this sucks. Hold on, I need to close my window. It's cold. But by the way, I've seen a couple of people ask the question: is no therapy better than bad therapy? And I would argue that the answer is yes. Bad therapy, because of the power dynamic that exists between therapists and clients, means that therapists who don't facilitate therapy well can potentially cause harm to clients, because they may do things that they are not good for them because they trust the authority of the therapist. Again, we tend to see bad therapy overrepresented because people talk about bad therapy experiences way more often than they talk about good ones. But yes, I would argue that you are better off not seeing a therapist than you are seeing a therapist who would cause harm.
Sorry, I don't know if you're sensitive to that or...
Yeah, why don't we just ignore that and get started?
Why don't we get started?
Sure. So, I feel worse than before. Definitely worse.
Okay.
I played the game you told me to with the meadows and stuff, and it was nice. But when I got back to the real world, everything was the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why distraction is not good. Distraction is only useful if it gives you a bit of energy to tackle the issues at hand. It is not an intervention. Distraction is not an intervention. So I'm not surprised at all to hear this.
I don't know why you people think I can stand in a nice place for 15 minutes and that'll make things magically better.
It won't.
Am I wrong? Am I misunderstanding something here?
Nope.
It isn't making me more successful. It isn't giving me opportunities.
Correct.
I mean, I feel like I'm already in my mid-30s and I'm like running out of time to get established as an artist. And meanwhile, the people I know are being written up and celebrated and winning awards and... All I have is being jealous of them.
Hey, knock it off. Where do you think these feelings come from? We know where these come from. By the way, they're not feelings. But what do you mean, where these feelings? This is where I would be driven absolutely mad by this. She's talked about this. You want to lose clients really quick? Forget what they've told you. Like, there is nothing. I put a huge premium on remembering things, because the continuity and the level of like depth of trust and relationship that you have when you remember the things that clients have told you is so important. If I can't even fathom if Maya was a client of mine and then she came in and said that, and then I go, well, where do you think these feelings come from? When I've seen her twice already and she has totally described where this comes from. Like, that is just so inept. And this is a real vulnerability in the armor here on Eliza, because, like, how often do I got to rehash this shit? This is the kind of stuff that wears on people.
Where do you think these feelings come from?
It's the popularity. It's all a popularity contest, you know? It's like high school all over again. I hate it. I guess I'm just not that funny or pretty or catty enough to attract followers.
This is all the same stuff. And the reason that we're rehashing this and retreading this is because Eliza's not doing meaningful work with her. If you, which is a word to the wise, if you're a client, if you find that you are constantly repeating yourself and retreading the same thing every single session with no momentum, one, you should tell your therapist that, but two, it may mean that your therapist is not either intervening properly or your therapist isn't holding you accountable to challenging some of these assumptions and working through what you need to work through. It's like sometimes, because Eliza is not meaningfully addressing the core issue here of her self-defeating narratives and the ways in which she is biasing herself into perpetuating them, and we just keep doing the surface level bullshit, she's going to keep returning to the same thing over and over and over again. It's feedback that Eliza is not addressing the problem.
I mean, I work and I work and I work to make things, and I never get traction. And I have things to say, I really do. But when I open my mouth, it's like time stops. And time starts again when I've finished, so nobody reacts or anything. It's like a curse from mythology. And meanwhile, these other people my age, people younger than me, they're well on their way to these wonderful, fulfilling artistic careers. And, I don't know, seeing that happen over and over again, it's making it hard to continue to be friendly with them.
So she's potentially reached we'll call it a stage, where she is now taking her own self-loathing and throwing it onto others, getting mad at other people. In the same way that we saw Harman get mad at Sylvia for being beautiful, we're seeing Maya potentially get angry at people for being successful, which is going to significantly harm her networking and engagement with these folks, which is then going to shoot herself in the foot and further perpetuate the issue. So this is what I'm talking about, this core process here of what's really important to address, because if this is now getting converted into vitriol toward others, where maybe she gets snippy or avoidant or angry or whatever, it's okay to be angry, but if she shows up angry in these scenarios and is engaging with that in a not healthy way, this is really going to cause problems for her in a big way.
I really try to hold it back, but knowing all these people are way more successful than me, it's difficult.
Buddy.
It's like a millstone around my neck, strangling me, drowning me. I can't stop myself, even though I know it's ruining things. I wish I could escape. I wish I could not care.
Yeah? What do you think? What do you think she should say? Yeah? What would you say to Maya, Dr. Jack?
But then something comes up again, and I'm trapped inside it all over again.
It probably feels like this is a horrible trap. Something that we talk about in early training as therapists, and as a supervisor, I was always monitoring with early therapists, is the tendency to get inducted into a client's reality. It's very important to meet clients where they are and to understand their thought process and to empathize and all that stuff. But sometimes you have to be very careful not to get seduced by the reality that they are constructing that is constraining them from meeting their goals. And where this is potentially happening with Maya, if you're not careful, if you're in a position of engaging with her in this way, is that you would start to believe that she is indeed trapped, that this is a vortex that she can't get out of, that that indirect system is indeed static and is as she describes, and that she is truly helpless. Which means that our problem solving then shifts to figuring out how to address that. And that's not where we need to go here. This is one of these moments with Maya where, as you get to know her as a therapist, you start to leverage some of the relationship and trust that you have. Because she is very likely not trapped in the way that she thinks she is. There's a good chance that she is actively participating in the helplessness of the system she's perceiving. And this is and the reason I say you have to leverage a lot of trust and relationship with clients around this is because if you're not paying attention, that can sound like victim blaming. It can sound like I'm saying, well, Maya, you're the one that's creating all of these circumstances for yourself, that I'm putting the entire onus on her. And if she takes that and personalizes it and goes in that direction and thinks that's what I'm doing, we're in trouble. Because yes, there are people around you who are successful. There are people around you who aren't paying attention to you. There may be people who don't care about your art, and perhaps you've seen a disproportionate amount of those types of reactions. Those things all exist, but there are potentially things that you're doing or ways that you're approaching this that might be further facilitating that process unnecessarily. So if your goal is to continue being an artist, finding success, getting yourself out there, we have to change the way that you are approaching this stuff. We have to change the way that you're talking yourself through this, because otherwise we are going to sit here for the next year, half a decade, rehashing and retreading the same conversation. Now, if you make some really meaningful, sustained changes in the ways that you decide to engage with this, and the ways that you control the things that you can control, and it's still not working out for you, yeah, we're not going to bash our head against the wall. Maybe there is a moment in time where we recognize that perhaps as an artist is not the way that you're going to make your living. That will be devastating. That will suck. And that will be something that we decide is an informed decision based on data and based on the fact that you made a real, honest-to-God effort to change the way in which you were engaging with this. But are you prepared to do that? Or do you need me to operate on the assumption that there's nothing you can do about this and that we just need to learn to deal with it and get away from it? Is that really what you want from me? Is that really what you want from yourself? It's a really difficult spot to be caught up in. But at some point, I have to challenge the idea that she is trapped by an immovable system, and that she is omniscient in the way that everybody around her views her, because she's not. And her entertaining the idea that she maybe is perpetuating so many of the issues that we've discussed with her throughout this playthrough.
What's an example of something that comes up that causes this?
Well, there's one woman in particular everyone loves. And her work is, I don't get it. I don't understand. She gets so much money and support for this basic shit. And somehow everyone's predisposed to like her. I mean, maybe I do get it. I feel like people pay attention to her work, not because it's good on its own, but because supporting her feels like the right thing to do. The way she's aligned herself, it's like if you support her, it means you're cool, you're in with the cool kids. And if I'm not publicly supportive of her and generally tolerant of her mediocre work, then I'm the bad one. I'm the competitive bitch. I'm the bitter failure. Which I guess maybe I am. It's not fair. I hate that there's this part of me. It's such an ugly part.
What does that part want? Where does it come from? What's it want for you? I get a sense that this part comes out because it is passionate about you and wants you to do well, and is frustrated that people that you perceive to be lesser than in terms of their product are gaining the success that you want. But what part of you would you say that that is?
But it's there. It's there.
Mm-hmm. Comparison in the arts is brutal. With a lot of folks that are very successful in the arts, comparison plays I realize the irony in saying this. Comparison plays a comparatively smaller role in how they shape their decision making. It is alluring, sure. It is sometimes difficult to see people achieving the things that you want to achieve when you're putting so much work in and are not seeing return on your investment. Comparison in the arts is akin to doom scrolling on Twitter, where the more you do it, you just keep infinite scrolling on it. The more you do it, the shittier you feel. And the more successful folks get, the less likely you are to compare because you're achieving what it is that you want to achieve. But the reality is, if she starts creating art, if she starts showing up in certain spaces because she's compensating for comparison, now her art's not hers anymore. Her art is what she thinks other people want it to be. Her art is what she has seen be successful from others. Like if she decides to dumb her stuff down to what she's seen this other person achieve, is it her art anymore, or is it a modified version that she thinks is going to get the external validation that she wants? It's really hard to sit in your silo as an artist and produce the art that you want to make and find the audience that's going to appreciate it. Some comparison in terms of process, like I would argue that comparing herself in terms of how she puts herself out there and how she engages with viewership and stuff like that may be somewhat helpful. But when you start going so deep into comparison and then driving a self-narrative as a result of that comparison, you're starting to build your sense of self around the external, and that's brutal. And it's creating a shell around her, and she's articulated this to some extent. It's created a shell. There's a real vulnerable group of parts in there that know and believe in what she makes, that say, you make good art. It is stuff that can be appreciated. I like it. It's good. But she's building this shell around herself of, no, it's not. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I suck. I'm not cut out for this. And she keeps just fueling that shell. She's looking for every possible thing she can in order to fuel that shell instead of the vulnerability underneath it. And it's a bummer, because maybe you won't get the validation you want. Maybe you will. But we need to get back in touch with the Maya that believes in herself, that sees herself as a great artist, that sees herself as having something to offer, that's willing to put herself out there and be vulnerable, immerse herself in some uncomfortable situations, maybe if it means that it's for the betterment of your career. Like yeah, there's going to be some discomfort around that. Are you prepared for that? Or if you truly aren't, are you prepared to walk away from it and maybe try to find something else that'll be fulfilling? It's a really hard, yeah, absolutely, Spin. It's a very hard space to navigate, because you're dealing with something that's very subjective and something that people have to engage with because they want to, not because they need to. She's not writing software that's necessary for people to operate their phones. She's creating art. Art's a want, not a need. And that puts you in it puts you in a hustle space in ways that other spaces aren't. The necessity is not a foundational principle of this.
Do you think you would be better off without that part of you?
No, 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 no. No. I don't have enough time to go into this. If you want to learn more about parts, I have a video on YouTube about internal family systems therapy. And if you are interested in parts work, I highly encourage you to watch that video. I went very, very, very deep down into that. You don't get rid of parts. You empathize with, understand, validate, and shift their purpose to something that is more healthy. You do not get rid of them. You don't even entertain the conversation about them being gone. The part of you is there. It's about working with that part, understanding what it needs for you, as I was asking the questions about earlier there.
You know, I don't know. In the past, I probably would have said, no, it's important for me to have my sense of judgment, for me to know what good art is and what isn't. Now I'm wondering if maybe that hasn't been more of a hindrance than a help to me.
Yeah, I mean, evaluating art as good versus bad, as any artist will tell you, is not the way. Like, art is art. There is no objective evaluation of good versus bad art. That binary is brutal for people. Yeah, it's probably been a hindrance. Again, because you're creating with a level of like judgment and evaluation that's not commensurate with what it actually is. And then you're looking at your success as being built upon that quantification of something that's really only qualifiable. And even then, it's qualifiable via relative subjective experience.
Maybe I should just forget all that. Forget about trying to do this thing. I'm sick of trying and wanting. I'm sick of parties. I'm sick of art. I'm sick of the idea of art. I'm sick of my own art, which nobody likes. Not even myself. Something has to change.
Yeah, either your attitude or your circumstances. Truly. Either we're going to have to change your attitude towards your art and toward the field, or yeah, we might have to change your circumstances. Maybe we do change. Maybe we do walk away from it.
Something drastic has to happen to change things around. Oh, that reminds me. I got your message about revealing my data the other day, and I think, well, hell, maybe I'm fine with it. Just take it all.
Oh, fucking. Come on.
Okay, Maya. It sounds like you're interested in participating in transparency mode. Let me know if you have any questions about how this mode works.
I don't know. I'm gonna let you look at my life, right? Everything.
Oh, fuck me. Dude. This isn't even a real person and this hurts.
Thank you for asking about transparency mode.
Oh my fucking god.
Transparency mode is an experimental new feature for Eliza. It allows me to analyze your communications in order to help you better. To participate, you must grant me access to certain personal data. This includes your personal communications, such as email and chat histories. Sharing this data improves my ability to help you.
guy at the bar was yammering at me about how it's a terrible idea because they're gonna surveil me or something.
Respect is surveillance. Oh, God. Oh man.
But what the hell? I can't use my life history for anything. It's a ruin already. Please, do what you want with it. God, I feel like I'm donating my body to science.
Thank you for the sub, Sam Biscuit.
Please confirm that you would like to enable transparency mode.
Yes, do it. Invade my privacy. Invade it like the Visigoths invaded Rome. I don't know why I said that. That was a really weird thing to say.
I did not understand your response.
I would like to participate in transparency mode.
Okay, Maya. I have registered you for transparency mode.
Cool. Wouldn't life be easy if all I had to do was follow your directions?
No, it would not.
Like the lady sitting in the chair across from me.
No.
I envy you. I honestly do.
The terms of service and privacy policy are available in the Skanda service portal.
You know, that's a big statement, though. You know, if you're a person that... there's nothing wrong with this. If you're a person that wants to be led, that wants to have... you know, wants to, like, follow directions and be told what to do and where to go, doesn't want to think about and, like, critically navigate your life. There are positions for that. Art is not one of those things. Art is not the space for that. Now, I realize that she's probably saying that just because she's fed up with how just difficult and intense it is to navigate the art space. And the envy is that somebody would just tell her exactly what to do, and here's what it'll do, and here's what will work. That's not the space she's occupying. And she's having an existential crisis as a result of that.
Please read and review these documents carefully.
Yeah. No, for sure. I closely study every software user agreement I get.
Well, that's good. You should.
That's a joke. I really just click agree as fast as I can.
Dude, she just disclosed so much vulnerable shit, and we didn't touch any of it.
Thank you, Maya. We hope to see you back soon.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for speaking with Eliza, your personal counseling partner. Goodbye.
Bye.
Persuader? Get out of here, man.
Well, look who's got access to transparency mode all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's going to be a wrap on that. I can't handle Ray right now. Not after that. Thank you, friends. Hate to leave you on such a terrible note, but we're gonna end it here. This is brutal. This is legitimately difficult to get through. I hate everything about what just happened, but I hope you don't hate everything. At least I hope you don't hate the me version of these streams. I appreciate the chance to have a conversation about all of this stuff. It's important. I mean, this is literally like the dystopian horror world of what therapy could ever. I can't even call this therapy. Like this is my nightmare. This game is literally my nightmare. So, you know, thanks for navigating my lucid nightmare with me. Please leave a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Check out the links in the description. Go check the Skanda Wellness app on your phone for a new distraction situation for yourself if you need to take your mind off this playthrough. If you need to take your mind off this playthrough, actually, I encourage you to open your YouTube app and check out my other playthroughs. It's a great way to go get a little palate cleanser. Maybe watch you some Red Dead, some GTA, some Last of Us. Holy crap. Seriously, thanks so much for supporting these playthroughs. If you're binging, I will see you in the next episode with Ray. And if you're waiting for the next one to come out, I'll get it out as soon as I can. You matter. You're awesome. I'm grateful for you, and I'll see you on the next one.